Um, I'm so happy to have Paul Ramsay on. He's one of my mentors, hypnosis trainers. I have not seen this guy on stage yet. I've seen a bunch of his clips, and I've heard he's amazing. Paul, you're super charismatic. You got a wide background beyond just hypnosis as well. So I got a lot of questions for you today. I want to hear some of your stories from the road and entertain people, and then get into a little bit on how hypnosis can help us change our lives. That sound good?
All right, that's cool. Yeah, let's do it.
If there's anything with your introduction that you want to talk about, your qualifications, how many people you've hypnotized over the years, all that stuff, let's have it.
So the short version would be, like many people who get into hypnotism, I did not know at like age 10 that I wanted to be a hypnotist. I sort of came into it later on. I was formally educated to be an English teacher, and I taught sophomore English at a public high school for a few years, and I enjoyed that, but I pretty quickly got tired of some of the politics that surround education. I don't think I was quite mature enough at that point in my life. I took a little bit longer to mature in that way. And I got tired of living paycheck to paycheck. I was in the lowest paying district in the entire state of Maine. And I would literally have times when I would open my cupboard. I'll never forget. I opened my cupboard once, and there was a single, typical 3-shelf cupboard, and there was a single can of chunky beef stew in the whole cupboard, and that was it, and I was like, wait a minute, I went to college to like get a safe job and all this stuff that my teachers and my guidance counselors and stuff, and I'm like, and now I'm here grading papers and working my ass off, and I got one can of chunky beef stew in the cupboard. I was like, this is, quite frankly, I was like, this is fucked up.
What a blessing, though, right? If you had been more comfortable, you never would have been doing what you're doing.
Yeah. So I decided I was going to get out of teaching, and I, of course, I was in the middle of earning a master's degree in education at the time, and I thought, so now I'm working on a second degree. I'm going to leave teaching, and I was like, yeah, if it's what you need to do, yeah, do it. So I went back to my university life. I had been a resident assistant when I was at the university. And I was like, I'll go be a residence hall director. So I went back and I ran a dorm at the University of New Hampshire, and I loved that job. That was a great job. And part of that job was putting on social and educational programs in the dorm so that students had stuff to do besides run around and get into trouble. And I used to hire this retired hypnotist to come in once a year and put on a demonstration of hypnotism in my main lounge as one of my programs. And I got talking to him every year. He'd come in, we'd talk, the students would come down, he'd do his thing, the students would leave, we'd talk some more. And the third year that we did that, he was telling me this story about how he had a client who could not, it's generally referred to as avoidant periuresis. The client could not urinate in public bathrooms. He could only urinate at home through a knot hole in his back fence.
We call those the glory hole, Paul.
It was just for peeing, though. It wasn't for anything else. So this guy could only urinate through a knot hole in the back fence in his yard. And obviously, you laugh about it at first, but you think about how constraining that would be to your lifestyle, that you have to plan your whole day around being able to go home and urinate through a hole in the fence in your backyard. So my first mentor, Bob Chase, he did hypnosis with this guy, and he changed that for him. And the guy was able to have a whole new level of freedom in his life. And he tells me this story, and I said, man, that is awesome. I'd love to learn how to do that. And right away, he goes, I'll teach you. I think you would be exceptional at it. And I said, really? And he goes, yeah, I just have this instinct that you've got all the right people skills, and you'd be really good at it. And so I put it off for a whole year. The fourth year, I was still a hall director. He came back in, and I said, hey, is that offer still good? And he said, absolutely. So started meeting with him. He taught me the basics, and then he got me to the point where he's like, okay, you can hypnotize people, but don't do anything. Just practice putting people into hypnosis and getting people out. And so I had 163 co-eds in my building. So I sent an email blast out to them and said, if you want to know what it's like to be hypnotized, come on down. And it was like a revolving door. They were
Yeah.
just coming in. I was like, get on the couch. And they'd get on the couch and I'd hypnotize them. And then I'd take them out. And right away, just having that real time experience with them, I realized that my first instinct was not right. My first instinct was, oh, this could be a fun hobby. And right away, I was like, this is not a hobby. This is something much more important than a hobby.
Yes.
And so, when I was a kid, I always remember when I first saw the movie Goonies, I had such a powerful response to watching that movie and hear all these kids having fun making this movie, right? And I thought, I want to do that. I want to be an entertainer. But I grew up in New Hampshire, and my family didn't have the means to like take me down to New York City and try to explore that world. So I let go of that pretty quickly, or so I thought. And then I had this other interest that I always wanted to help people. And so when I was in seventh and eighth grade, I was a counselor in training at a camp in the summertime. And then when I went to college, I was an RA. I was a resident assistant. I kept finding ways, and then I became a teacher. I kept finding ways to try to be of service to people because it just made me feel good to know that I was helping people. And so then I had this night where I was sitting after, hypnotizing like the 30th resident in my building and thinking about how cool it was. I had this light bulb moment where I was like, you bozo, like all this time you've had these two things and you can do them both. Like you can be on stage and you can entertain people and you can have fun and you can see people using consulting hypnotism and change their lives. You can help them get rid of their phobias and fears. You can help them get rid of their bad habits. You can help them stop smoking, all this stuff. And so that was when a light bulb went off. I was like, well, of course. And so I went and I got certified with the National Guild of Hypnotists. That was, by the time that happened, I was in my 5th year as a hall director. And I really knew that that's what I was going to do. So it was funny. The universe always provides, right? Like, and even sometimes in little ways. I was driving in my car and I was listening to National Public Radio, and they were interviewing Dave Chappelle, the comedian. And he told a story of how when he was young, he is way back when you could still talk to people like entertainers. If you went to a comedy club, you could actually hang out with them a little, and he's telling this story about how he went and saw Eddie Murphy at a comedy club in Washington, D.C., and he went up to him afterward and said, Mr. Murphy, my name's Dave Chappelle, and I do comedy, but I really want to do it like you do it. And I just want to know, what advice would you give me? And Eddie Murphy told him, he said, do you have a day job? And he said, yeah. And he goes, well, you need to quit that shit tomorrow. And he was like, what? And he's like, you need to put yourself in the position where you don't have a safety net, where you know that if you don't do this, you're not going to get your rent paid. So you better get out and do it. He goes, that's the best advice I can give you. And Dave Chappelle said, he goes, I went in the next day and I quit my job and I just started going around and doing stand-up every chance I could. And it just resonated with me so strongly because I had this great job working at the university. I had a salary, I had an apartment that I didn't have to pay rent for. It was part of the compensation. They gave me a meal plan. They gave me health benefits, dental benefits. They even gave me a retirement package. And I was like, this is too much good stuff. Like, I'll never feel like I need to get out and really make this hypnotism thing happen if all of this stuff is being provided for me from this day job. So I sent in my official notice to the department and said, when the school year ends in May, I won't be coming back. And that way and that was in like March, so I gave myself a little lead time.
Had you done any stage shows yet, or just all?
I hadn't done any of that.
Ballsy.
I just knew that I had to put myself in that position because I knew for me, other people can maybe do both. I'm sure there are plenty of people who can, but for me, I knew that having that comfort level would keep me from really working at it. And so I put in that notice, and then immediately I started reaching out to the other hall directors who ran the other dorms. And I said, I will come in and give a free 1-hour hypnotism demonstration in your dorm if you're looking for programming. Because I knew they were looking for programming just like I was when I had the other guy come in. And they started taking me up on it, and they started bringing me in. And I started going around, and that's how I worked on my chops and worked out my stage concept. And then I went, as soon as the year got done in May, I was already marketing for high school graduation events. So in June, I started doing high school grad nights, the chem-free lock-in nights. I started doing orientations at colleges. Not a lot, but I got some. I started doing some orientations that summer. And then I started doing college shows in the fall when they came back in. So when I could, I was seeing clients. I made an office in my apartment that I was living in, and I was seeing clients there. I was doing stage work, and I just was trying to do it all really at first.
So you've gotten really innovative with your stage stuff, and you have the audience vote on what everyone's going to do. I know our buddy Rod Carrera was at your show, and he was like, it was wild. What are some of the things, some good stories or some things that happen on stage that people are like, wow?
People always want me to tell some like crazy stories. And I'm like, there are no crazy stories.
What about the pirate story?
Well, so I have fun stories, but I think one thing is like, I'm really committed to working clean, right? So my shows like aren't the R-rated shows. I'm not striving to create like really crazy situations. I just want people to laugh and I want people to be creative. So, we have funny, weird things though. I mean, I was giving a demonstration once, and that was actually, so even after I started doing hypnotism full time, I kept doing the residence hall appearances at the university as a way to keep working on stuff and testing stuff. Mm-hmm. So what I would do is I started charging. I said, for $150, I'll come in, I'll do an hour and a half presentation of hypnotism, and it'll be fun, and so I started doing that, and I do 12 to 15 of those a year, and those were part of my developmental process. So this one time, I'm in this residence hall, I'm in a main lounge, it's like a big living room, and I do this thing where I've got like 7 students hypnotized, and I say to them, I'm gonna count from 1 up to 3. When I get to number 3, you'll open your eyes, you'll be alert, refreshed. At some point after your eyes are open, when I say the word hypnosis, you're no longer yourself. You're more than yourself. When I say the word hypnosis, you become the most feared pirate in all the land, right? And I say, and you're going to have all the characteristics of a truly fearsome pirate. You have the peg leg, and you know how to walk on it because you've had it for many years. So I set them up for safety. I don't want anyone being able to tip over on their peg leg, right? So you have the peg leg, you got the hook hand, you got the scowl, you talk like a pirate, you walk like a pirate, and you are a pirate. And so then I 1, 2, 3 awake, and I get them, I fractionate them up. And and then I say, isn't this great? We're exploring what hypnosis is like. And out of the 7 students, all 7 of them stand up immediately. They stand right up. And 6 of them start doing the standard, like, "Arr," and they're hook handing it, and they're limping around the room, and they're walking up to people, "Ahoy, matey," and they're right. It's all funny stuff. Like, it's all the usual, typical stuff. But this one guy doesn't do any of that. Is the coolest. He stands up very quietly, and he just starts walking across the room. And on the other diagonal corner of the room, there's a piano in this lounge. And he walks over and he sits down at the piano and he starts playing pirate music on the piano. It's like, dong, 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 like he's just playing chords that are kind of like spooky sounding, like piratey,
Yeah.
And people are watching him and they're laughing. And then, then I get done with him. I had built in a word too that would deactivate. So I deactivate and they kind of look confused. I go, "Why don't you all come over and sit down again?" And they sit down. So then I keep going with the demonstration. I keep going. I get to the end of the demonstration. At the end of the demonstration, what I do to help them realize that they really were hypnotized is I wipe their memory of everything that happened. And then I give them a way for it to be reactivated. So when their memory is jogged in that way, like it really makes a profound effect on them, right? So we get to the end and I wipe their memory, and then I bring it back, and they're all like, "Whoa, whoa!" And then so then I'm staying and I'm just processing out with them. And before I activated, I said to him, before I reactivated his memory, I said, man, that whole thing when you were a pirate, that was awesome. And of course I expected him to go, what are you talking about? Because I hadn't brought the memory back yet, right? And I said, you know, when you, and I'm purposefully wanting him to be like, you're crazy. And I go, you know, you were the pirate. You went over and you played the piano. And instead of just denying it, he looks at me and he goes, I don't know how to play the piano. What are you talking about? And I go, now it's like I'm the one who's punked now, right? I go, what? He goes, I don't know how to play the piano. And the whole crowd is like, oh, because they're getting it now too, right? And I go, wait a minute, come on. And I go, all right, hold on. And so then I reactivate the memory and it comes back and they're all laughing and everything. Then I let them get through that. And then I go back to him and I say, now listen, we got to talk about this. I'm like, remember before? I go, you remember being a pirate? He goes, yeah, but I don't play the piano. And I go, well, you know that you played the piano, right? And he goes, yeah, but I can't explain that. He goes, I don't know how to play the piano. Wow. I go, come on, don't mess around. I go, that's not, he goes, dude, I'm not messing with you. Like, I've never fucking played the piano in my life. Like, he was getting almost a little bit surly with me. He goes, listen, I don't know. And I go, but you know you did. He goes, I'm not arguing with you about that. He goes, but I'm just telling you. I go, you never took piano lessons when you were a kid for even a little while? He goes, nope. I go, do you play any other instruments? And he goes, well, I self-taught how to play the guitar. He goes, but I never had lessons. I don't know how to read music. I don't know how to play any other instruments. So, you know, it's a fascinating look at. So you'd think, like, if he can grasp how to make chord structures by playing the guitar, he should be able to turn around and do it on a piano if he has a real grasp.
Hypothetically.
Right? Hypothetically. It's still a really cool thing to think about, right? Like,
yeah, it's an awesome story. So let's get into what exactly is hypnosis, right? Because people know what meditation is. I've gotten, just this week, I had somebody I got them to forget their name during hypnosis.
Nice.
And then one of the kids I used to coach got a tattoo on his back, and I anesthetized his whole back. So he got this tattoo, and I missed filming it. I'm beating myself up. But the guy starts drilling into his back, and he goes, did he start yet? And as soon as he realizes the guy's been going for like 30 seconds, he goes, holy shit, I don't feel anything. And he freaked out. He didn't feel anything the whole time. So there's some really powerful stuff that can happen. This is just scratching the tip of the iceberg. But let's talk about what exactly is hypnosis.
So hypnosis is a dissociative state. It's what there's different theories on what hypnosis is. That's important to say, first of all. Not everyone in the hypnotism community is in agreement about what hypnotism really is. There are literally hypnotists, practicing hypnotists, who say there is no such thing as hypnosis. Wrap your head around that for a minute. Because what tends to happen is at the 30,000 foot level, people fall into one of two camps. And that's the state versus non-state theory people, right? Is hypnotism an act which actually creates a different state of consciousness in the subject? Or is no different state occurring? We're just the way we are, you know? And so what some people argue is look, our state is changing all throughout the day, and there's different states of mind. And so there isn't, they're all different, and that's the way it is. I tend to subscribe to the idea, the belief that hypnotism is a different state of consciousness, and that it is a mildly dissociative state, right? We know that dissociation occurs on a spectrum, and on the light end of the spectrum is like simple dissociative events like daydreaming, where you can get so into a daydream that someone says, hey, lunch is ready, and you don't even hear them because you're so engrossed in the daydream that you're having. And on the literally the crazy end of the other end of the spectrum is a full psychotic break, in which you dissociate from yourself so completely that you take on another identity, right? Your emotional situation is so severe that the only way to provide a relief to yourself is to dissociate from yourself and go into a whole other persona, because you can't deal with being who you are because there's so much trauma. Right?
Start playing the piano, obviously.
And start playing the piano. So, and then there's different states in between. So from what I've seen, and I've hypnotized over 15,000 people over 15 years, You know, I haven't done a math check lately. I really might be up more toward 20,000 at this point, but I know I've hypnotized over 15,000 people. And what I see in people is that while they are conscious, hypnosis is a conscious state, they definitely are not, for lack of a better term, normal when they're in that conscious state. There is a shift that occurs, and that shift can be observed through simple physiological changes that occur. They're not the same for everyone, and that's part of where science gets picky with hypnosis, because in the scientific method, you want to have a protocol which elicits the exact same response every time in order to determine that something valid is occurring, right? And that's part of where science gets hung up in hypnotism sometimes. Is hypnosis is a phenomenological experience. It's different for different people because how the phenomena presents to them and through them is different. When I hypnotize people, some people, their pupils blow up huge, but not everybody. And some people, when they get hypnotized, their circulation changes and they get real red and blotchy. They're hot. They get super hot, but not everybody. Some people, when their circulation changes, the whites of their eyes get pink. They don't get bloodshot where it's just one or here and there. They turn like truly pink because the diffusion of blood through the capillary level of the body is so pervasive that it turns the whites of their eyes pink. There are these things that you can observe in people, and you're like, you know, they weren't like that before. Something has changed.
Yes. So for me, one thing that helped me clarify was the idea of suggestibility. Right? You're in hypnosis, you're often, categorized in a suggestive state. So sometimes that starts off easy, whereas, your arm is stiff, right? And then you go from simple things until you convince someone they can forget their name. And then they're like, my name is, what? Wait, like, how do I not remember my name? And then you get to a point in the deeper levels where you just tell them something and it's automatic, right?
Right.
And it takes a lot of rapport. It takes a lot of, skill, and you have to take them through the depths to do that. And you're very adept at that. So it's definitely something that I'm working up to right now. I love it though.
It's a fun process, and it's fun to me. It's fun. And it's almost sort of intimate, I think, to share in that with people. I'm really honored when people let me do that with them, because it's not something you do to people. It's something you do with people.
Yes.
And that process of rapport and building trust with people and people giving you their trust is really a wonderful thing.
So one thing I learned coming out and doing your 8-day intensive training, which really took my understanding of psychology and ourselves and even spirituality to the next level, was the idea that we have this consciousness that fills this body. And our subconscious mind is just a computer program that we can use our conscious mind to program. And so hypnosis is really the easiest way to write new code in the system, right? You want to smoke cigarettes, or you want to quit smoking cigarettes. Here's a new code. Oh, okay, now I don't want to smoke cigarettes anymore. And it's not always that easy, but the idea is if you can go in and program the subconscious mind to kick a fear of needles, to kick an addiction to smoking, to kick all these different things, or to start being motivated to work out or eat vegetables, whatever it is, you can just put new codes in the subconscious. The power is unlimited, right? The things you can do with it are unlimited.
Yeah. And the former English teacher in me, Nick, is going to get picky with you. And I'm going to say, but what you said is that hypnosis does that. And I'm going to say, no, I don't think hypnosis does do that. Actually, I don't think hypnosis does the change work. I think that the suggestion that you deliver to a person while they're in hypnosis, right? Like if you think of, this goes back to your earlier question, if hypnosis is a dissociative state in which people become more focused, narrow their attention, and become more receptive to suggestion, right? Okay, but how does that create change in people? It doesn't. Not if that's what hypnosis is. Hypnosis itself doesn't create change. Hypnosis primes people for changing in a better way. What changes, helps people create the change they desire, is the actual, the thinking, the idea. How do you deliver an idea that's powerful enough, that's good and feels right, so that people embrace that idea and change the way they think? Hypnosis makes that happen more effectively, right?
Yes.
And so that's why, this self-hypnosis class that we're teaching on the 12th, it starts next week. That's where the big thing I keep trying to tell people is, look, hypnotizing yourself, learning self-hypnosis is actually pretty easy. like learning to hypnotize yourself just takes some practice. And with 10 minutes of practice a day, most people can learn to hypnotize themselves within a week, no problem. Now, if you want to take that hypnosis and create powerful change in your life, knowing how to hypnotize yourself isn't enough. You've got to know how to create really powerful suggestions. How do you deliver the right idea for you? Because you're not going to deliver one idea to 1,000 people and get all 1,000 people to change.
Sure.
You can get some of them to, but not all of them.
So you take the conscious desire, right? A lot of people consciously want to quit smoking, but when cigarettes are in front of them, they just naturally react and they put one in their mouth. So it's that conscious idea into the subconscious. And again, there's so much more to hypnosis than just snapping your fingers and saying you're not a smoker. You have to speak their language. You have to build rapport. You have to know how they use smoking to meet their needs, right? And you have to give them a suggestion to meet their need in a different way. You have to know what about smoking brings them pleasure. You have to take that pleasure away, and you have to know how to give them a new association of cigarettes to pain, right? There's a lot of things that goes into the actual clinical consulting hypnosis than just snapping your fingers and saying now you're a pirate. Exactly. And I mean that, so people who listen to the earlier part of this, they probably go, but that's what you said you did, right? When you did the demonstration. And it's like, yeah, but I gave you the quick version of the story. You didn't watch me lead them through a deepening process that gets them to go deeper and deeper into hypnosis, and that preps them to accept that suggestion so easily, And still, the fundamental thing you've got to understand is when I do those stage shows, when I give those demonstrations, there's a social contract that's occurring. People are coming with the expectation that we're going to do fun things, right? And so then when they volunteer to be hypnotized, they're pretty much intimating right away, I'm choosing to do this because I want to have the experience of doing fun things. So then when you tell them to do the fun thing, you're going to be a pirate, they just accept it, right? Yeah. It's not quite the same as losing the weight or stopping the tobacco or stopping the marijuana or those other things. There's a little bit of a slightly different process there. I mean, fundamentally, it is the same process. It plays out in a different way. But again, that's where, if you watch these things, you go, well, if they can do that, if you can just decide, I want to have fun and I can get hypnotized in one day, right? In not even one day, in 30 minutes, get through the process of getting hypnotized, deepening your hypnosis, and then getting you to the point where you're doing all this fun and silly stuff, then again, 10, 15 minutes a day, pretty quickly you can get to a point where you go, I can do self-hypnosis, and then I can deliver these hypnotic suggestions that really make me look at my life in a different way and what I'm capable of and what I can do in a different way. Yeah, very powerful stuff. And I'd use a lot of the self-hypnosis principles. I use the voice memos on my iPhone, and I'll do a recording, almost every day. And it's a lot of times it just puts me in a better emotional state. So I'll get myself relaxed, fractionated. And now I'm at a point where I've practiced it. So I go, pretty easily into that state. And I say, find gratitude, give myself suggestions to visualize and bring out all the little textures of being grateful, of being present, of visualizing what I want the day to look like, what I want my life to look like. And then those suggestions are just constantly going in, and I'm finding myself, I'm present, I'm unshakable. Things happen and I'm like, okay, that's interesting. What can I learn from this? And my emotions don't get thrown off because I'm practicing that self-hypnosis. And, most people don't associate that stuff with hypnosis, right? They just think of the habits, but it's a lot of the emotional state, which is, in my opinion, is the spiritual connection as well. And just experiencing love-based emotions comes when you remove that fear through oftentimes self-hypnosis for me.
Yeah. So that's great the way you frame that. And I just think that's so important. I mean, ultimately what we want to do, right, is again, self-hypnosis is a tool. It's a tool. And your choice to use it as a tool to enrich your life is the key thing is what habits do you want to create for yourself about shaping your mental focus, your emotional clarity, your spiritual clarity, so that you have a habit of forging your best life every day. And that's what you're talking about. I love it. That's what this is. That's our goal. Is we want more and more people. We want more and more people to use self-hypnosis so that they feel like they've got a legitimate tool to help them do that. That's what it's all about.
And I've studied this stuff a lot from so many different angles, but fear is the thing that like blinds us to opportunities in life. Fear is the thing that puts those hormones into our body that cause disease. And with hypnosis, and this is really how I started, was doing guided meditations where I would just bring people into the present and eliminate that fear, and they'd come out of it and they would just see the whole world completely differently.
So let me tell you, if you'll bear with me again, let me tell you another story that speaks to that so well. So this is probably like 8 or 9 years ago. I was down in Florida and I was at the University of Western Florida. And there's like 650 students in this audience, big audience. It's their opening week of school. Everyone's pumped. They're excited. We have this rocking show, right? I've got like 18, maybe only like 15 probably students on stage who I get through the whole show with, and we put on this killer show. And again, just like in the demos, I always end by wiping their memory so that they have that real convincing moment at the end of, holy cow, I really was hypnotized. And so on that particular night, what I did was I set up this suggestion that we wipe their memory and then say, but when you walk, finally I'm going to let you leave. And when I tell you that you're dismissed, you walk down the stairs. When you get to the bottom of the stairs and your very first footstep touches the floor, you'll remember everything. You remember everything you saw, you remember everything you did, remember everything you heard, and that will be the completion of your hypnotic experience for tonight, and you'll realize what an amazing hypnotic subject you were. So I set all of that up, and then I emerge, right? I go, and 5, release yourself from hypnosis, and at that instant, memory's wiped, they open their eyes, right? And they're all, what tends to happen is they all look a little bit confused, right? Because now they have no memory of being in a show, yet they're sitting on stage, and they tend to be like, why the hell am I sitting up on the stage, right? So all of them have that, but one young woman, immediately, her whole body language changes, her physicality changes to fearful physical expression, right? And she starts to turn as completely far, right? I'm doing this. This is like, so 1 minute you're looking here, right? There's my fireplace in the back, but now we're here. She's turned 180 degrees around so that she doesn't have to look at the audience. And I can tell she's stressed, and that's not what we're going for. So instead of working, she's in the middle of the row of chairs. Instead of working from one end down to her, I had started talking to the first person, but I'm noticing her. So I wrap up the first person and I dismiss them. And then I skip everyone else and I go to her. And I walk up and I go, hey, what's going on? Why are you all twisted around in your chair? And she's like whispery kind of, right? And she's like, why am I up here? And I go, well, you were in the hypnosis show. And she goes, no. And I go, yeah, you were in the hypnosis show. And of course, all the other students, they all believe that nothing. They're like, no, we weren't. This is ridiculous. They're yelling at me. They're frustrated. And I go, listen, I'm trying to talk with her. I'm trying to stay focused on her. And I go, what's the deal? What's going on? I go, and I put the microphone down because she was talking so quiet. She goes, I have terrible stage fright, and I would never come up on a stage like this. I don't belong here right now. Right? Do you see where this is going?
I know
right?
where you're going with this. Yeah.
So isn't that fascinating that in the hypnotic state, all that fear just left? I didn't have to tell her to let it go so she could come up on stage. In the hypnotic state, she released all of that consciously acquired, limiting belief stuff. And she just came up on stage and had fun for an hour and 15 minutes, right?
But you hypnotized her before she even came up on stage, right? She came
right. So in that show, they get hypnotized in the audience. Exactly. I didn't ask for volunteers. I say, if you want to do it, just do it and we'll work it out. So she naturally has a part of herself that's curious about what it would be like to get hypnotized. She gets hypnotized because of that, and then comes up on stage once hypnotized because she doesn't have those fears. So now I say, all right, this is a chance to help change this woman's life, right? So I say to her, I get down a little closer and I say, just really, will you look at me right now? I said, I really want you to focus. And she looks at me and I said, this is so important. I want to give you this gift. I said, I want you to go ahead. I don't want you to be up here where you're uncomfortable. So I'd like you to go ahead and leave. But before you do, just really listen to me. You're going to walk over and you're going to walk down those stairs. And I want you to understand something. I promise you, when you get to the bottom of those stairs, your life's going to change in the most beautiful way. You're going to realize something different about yourself exists now. Okay? Can you do that for me? And she looks and she's like, yeah, whatever. Like, she's totally frustrated with me still,
Yeah.
right? She's like, yeah, whatever. What fat guy, you know? Like, and she stands up and she makes a beeline for the stairs. And she walks down the stairs, and when her footstep touches the floor at the bottom of the stairs, you would have thought she got struck by lightning. Like, her whole body convulsed. And the audience sees that, and she turns and looks at me, and I just smile. And 649 people give her a standing ovation.
Wow.
And she beams, right? She just beams. Because she gets it, like, without anything having to be said, she gets what she did. She gets that all those old beliefs can go away and her life can be different. And to me, that's the beauty of being able to do the entertainment side of it, is that you can share in those moments with people. The entertainment side of it is a chance to get people to go, whoa, like, if I can do that, what if I did go see a hypnotist, or what if I did start using self-hypnosis, you know?
Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You got so many great stories. Well, I appreciate having you on. A couple last questions. I'm just starting to do this. What is the most impactful self-development book you've ever read? Your favorite personal development book?
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Okay. It's one of the only books. I only have probably 2 or 3 books that I reread every year. And that's one of the ones. I reread Think and Grow Rich every year because there's so much in it. Yeah. And it truly, all the stuff you hear nowadays about law of attraction, abundance, lifestyle coaching, all of that stuff gets traced back to Think and Grow Rich. It absolutely does. It's such an important text. And I mean, you know, I've given it to clients. I give it away. I really, now I say it out loud, I'm like, why don't I always give it to every single client? I probably should start doing that. But yeah, please, if you haven't read Think and Grow Rich, go out right now, get yourself a copy and read that book, and then reread it and reread it and reread it.
What is the most impactful personal development experience? So whether it was a course, an event, the most impactful thing you've ever done for your personal development?
Strategic intervention coaching through Robbins Madonis. Tony Robbins and Chloe Madonis built a coaching program together called Strategic Intervention Coaching. I took that. It's an online program. It's a completely online program. And I'm not an affiliate or anything like that. I don't get any money by steering you to that. I will just tell you that changed my life in really important ways. It teaches you how all human beings get their needs met according to 6 basic human needs. It teaches you what those are. It teaches you how to assess your own behavior and the choices you make according to that need-based system and a values clarification system. Really, really important stuff that, again, I use it daily. I use it for my own, clarification of what's going on in my life. I use it with my coaching clients. I use it with my hypnosis clients. Really, really huge for me.
Yes, I'm very familiar. I haven't done the course yet, but I'm sure I will one of these days. So Paul, where can everybody find you? And again, I would highly recommend the self-hypnosis course For those of you who are a little more ambitious, I would definitely recommend the 8-day intensive training as well. That was a game changer for me. But where can they find out more about that, Paul?
So if you want to learn more about me as an entertainer, you need to go to paulramsay.com, PaulRamsay. If you've got an event that you'd like entertainment for, I've done entertainment for Bud Light and Pepsi and paper companies and banks and all that stuff. So if you've got something like that, if you're more on the personal development side of things, besthypnosistraining.com is our personal development. My partner Sandra and I, we do all of our hypnosis training, and that site is geared for all different levels of interest in hypnotism. So if you're like, I don't want to be a hypnotist, you can go there and you can take the self-hypnosis course and just learn that skill for everyday living. If you think you might like to be a hypnotist, we can talk about that. We got more programs coming up. We're going to launch by the end of the year. We absolutely will launch a meditation course there. We're going to launch other stuff. But our big thing right now, we're really trying to get people to focus on is this self-hypnosis course. Our mission is to get more and more people to use self-hypnosis. So we have a completely online self-hypnosis program. It's a 4-week program. All the content is online. We teach you multiple ways of learning self-hypnosis. And we also we do a weekly call that's we use Zoom. It's a webinar platform, so you can get in and be on video, or it's got a phone number. If you just want to dial in on your phone and listen, you can do that as well. But we do a weekly call where that's your chance to say, hey guys, I've been trying to do this and it's not working for me. What am I doing wrong? Or, hey, I really want to use self-hypnosis for this particular outcome. How do I adapt what you're teaching to that? And that's your chance to get consulting with us directly. So if you go to besthypnosistraining.com, right on the front page. Well, Nick, I'm going to send you let me send you a URL.
We'll put the link.
Yeah, I'd rather make it easier, right? I'll just send you the URL. And you guys who are watching this, just click on the URL that Nick's going to have, and that way it'll take you right to the sign up page where you can get into that program. The next program starts Wednesday, September 12th. It's a 4-week program, but the other thing I want you to understand is we never shut your access off. It's a 4-week program, but you have access for life. So what we do is we do the class 4 quarters of the year. So next quarter, when we're doing it again, we'll send you an email and you can drop in again and use it for another aspect of your life. And you can just keep doing that forever. We want you to use it. We want to support your usage of it. So it's never going to go away and it's never going to be shut off. We want you with us learning how to make your life better as much as we can help you do that. So we'll give you that URL.
Awesome. Thanks for your time, Paul. Great to see you. And
thank you, buddy. I love you and I miss you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm so glad to see you.
Talk soon.
Thanks, all right. Be there.